Hello, and welcome to the 30th official episode of Eunuch Corner Club. Today we are joined by Wes Wyleven and 3 of 12, and we are going to be talking about Wes Wyleven's new Star Trek discussion series. Today we're going to go through his ideas for a structured conversation about all that is Star Trek, what it means to him, and we want feedback from not just the people that are on the panel as a brainstorming session, but also today we want feedback from you. We want to know what kind of things you are invested in, what kind of things you want to hear about when it comes to a discussion series about popular entertainment, a popular entertainment series like Star Trek. And more than anything, we just want to have fun talking about something that we love. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and say hello to our two people today on the Corner Club. Wes Wyleven, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little under the weather. Been worked to the bone lately, doing a bunch of stuff and trying to find some actual work with either the county or the city, doing some type of transport job. 3, how are you? I know it's finals week for you. How you weathering? You doing all right?
I'm hanging in there. It's a little rough, burning the candle at both ends, but I am somehow holding it together.
Well, good. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that.
You know, 3, you had a wonderful opportunity to make a subtle next gen reference by saying burning the midnight oil. But, guess not. Yeah. See? There you go.
Yeah,
That's
there
good.
You go. There you go. Well, the nature of the show today is Wes Wyleven has an idea for a new series. So why don't you take the floor for a minute or two, Wes, and tell us about why we're here today and the idea that you want to discuss.
Thank you. I've mentioned it a couple times. I've mentioned it on your on Discordant Dragons. I mentioned it over in Don's stream. We actually had a long conversation about it over there. And I've mentioned it on Uzlu's stream a couple times as well. In fact, the idea originally started over there. Well, I mentioned in passing that Star Trek is incredibly misunderstood, and obviously modern Star Trek has been completely hijacked by leftist identitarians and all of that happy
And the usual corporate shills that don't give a crap.
Oh yeah, of course. But more importantly, and the thing that I am very much worried about is unlike Star Trek, unlike Star oops. Unlike Star Wars or even Warhammer, as much as I love Warhammer, but you know, unlike most other fictional franchises, Star Trek holds a different position than most forms of escapist media. Star Trek for generations now has inspired some of the best minds and brightest people in our culture, and not just the United States, but all over the Western world, to become engineers, to become architects, to become scientists in some of the most advanced fields of science and engineering. And the people who got us to the to into space, the people the people who built the shuttle, the people who Elon Musk, the man who's going to get us to Mars, back to the moon. You know, so many people, generations of people now have been inspired by Star Trek. By this liberal utopian view of the of humanity's potential future. And I feel that, and now especially, the leftists and identitarians and collectivists are all, they are doing more than just saying that. They're doing more than just taking Trek and making it shit, because just like Star Wars and everything else, yeah, they've hijacked it and they've turned it into shit. But more, what's worse is that right now they are going back and they are saying that the old stuff was leftist, that the old stuff was unironically communist. And you know, the fully automatic gay space communism bullshit, you know, like that type of thing.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
Yeah,
Even though the
we
creator
all have.
was explicitly against that.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that I saw once was this clickbait bullshit Star Trek article that said that Major Roddenberry, the article said that Major Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry's wife, said that in the 90s, she said that Gene Roddenberry was not just a socialist, but he was a Maoist communist who appreciated Mao and China, like
Well,
communist occupied China.
I don't want to get in the weeds with this because that was what you did on Don's stream this week.
Yeah,
Um, if
but
you guys want to hear back and forth about this particular topic, there's a long stream of specifically that over on Don the Pleb's channel, which I will link in the chat. And I didn't really want to talk about that today, but we can address that later because no doubt somebody will ask about it or super chat about it. But
the
let's focus on what you want to do with the show and tell us about that. Now, you've already said that you want to, of course, dispel what you just said, but let's move
yeah,
on to what else you want to do.
so the whole reason why I brought all that up was, uh, there are several YouTube channels. There are several. Of course, there are articles out the wazoo, but you know, who gives a shit about that? But like, there are several YouTube channels that go into detail about Star Trek, uh, and how it is communist, how it is socialist, and all that stuff. And they are, in my opinion, you know, like, and not just communist and socialist, but like how the Trill represent trans people. You know, like little things like that, when that couldn't be farther from the truth. That's not what trans is. Yeah, like that's just one example. You know, like how, you know, so many little things where they go in and they give all of these little examples, and they
All right.
manipulate the original point of the episodes. They manipulate the original message
Okay.
of
So
the
with your
individual
stream,
episode.
not stream, but with your channel idea, you don't want to postmodernize it and ascribe things to it that the creators and writers didn't want to ascribe. This is a classical interpretation of, not interpretation really, but a classical presentation of why each episode and why it was what it was, and in accordance to the creators what they wanted to present with that message. That's what the goal of this will be then.
And so yeah, and eventually the basic truth is, I'm just gonna have to go through every single episode, and I don't consider this an undertaking. You know, I love Star Trek, and there are plenty of people who love Star Trek too. And every time I mention this, I get nothing but positive feedback, because no one's really done this before. There are people who have broken down the episodes, you know, certain episodes, but no one's ever really gone through episode by episode and said this, and this. And I don't just want to talk about the politics of it, like you know, like Sargon's The Politics of Fill in the Blank. I don't just want to do that. I want to talk about like some of the behind the scenes stuff, and some of the cool stuff about story and character development, and the rich world that is being birthed episode by episode, and the characters. You know, the in the original series alone, the wonderful character development between Bones and Spock and Kirk, and the
Oh yeah, yeah.
hell
No,
the
I've watched all of the original series, even the old kind of weird stuff, the first few episodes. and it's all worth watching in my opinion. I like it.
And so basically, what I'm going to do is, I'm not a very technical savvy guy. So I don't have the ability to do like a big production and have it be heavily edited. But one thing I can do is I can talk, and I know a lot about what I'm talking about when it comes to Star Trek. So, and for some reason, folk like hearing me talk. So I might as well do something. I might as well do something good with it. And
I definitely agree that you're good at talking. I love having you on. I like the cut of your jib. You are a great example of, in my mind, when I think about people who are good moral people, but who are also of the liberal camp. And I don't mean that as the subverted liberalism of the last 80 years. I mean in the antebellum Victorian era classic liberalism concept. Like people like Sargon of Akkad. A lot of people don't like him, but I think he means well and he has some kind of moral fiber based on something that's not modern leftism and garbage.
of course,
I like hearing from different staunch ideological camps of people, which is the whole nature of my channel, wanting to bring different minds from different camps together to share language, lexicon, ideas, etc. So, with that being said, we want to hear from people of all camps to put in about his idea. So I've put links in the chat already in DLive, Entropy, and YouTube. If you want, I highly recommend you use Entropy because chat in the live chats in both DLive and YouTube disappears. It gets pushed away. Over on Entropy, on the left-hand side is the question widget, also known as the Tall Kevin widget. And over on the Tall Kevin widget on the left-hand side, you can type questions, comments, and ideas to us that won't disappear. And the users in the community can vote them up and down. So the best comments and questions will rise to the top, and towards the end of the stream, we'll be going through all of those and discussing them. Also, you can use Entropy to create, we can't call them super chats because apparently YouTube is a dick about that, but paid chats, we'll say, donation chats. If you want to leave paid messages to support the channel, Entropy is the best way to do that. And of course, you can leave short messages with a PayPal donation and even shorter messages over on the Cash App. But Cash App and PayPal, of course, I get the most money from percentage-wise. So if you just want to donate to me to help me run the channel, Cash App and PayPal are the way to go. If you want more user interaction, Entropy is the way to go if you want to support the channel. So now that the big shill is out of the way, 3 of 12, thank you for being here today. I know that we already talked about your finals week, but when it comes to what Wes is putting together, have you already got some ideas lined up to talk to Wes about today, about his new channel idea?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, the commie shit aside, I just wanted to gush about Star Trek, all the little minutiae that I've accumulated over the years that Wes might not be aware of because he's not as tech inclined as I am.
Cool.
I also have an absolute mountain of novels that I could talk about, and various other beta, gamma, and delta material.
Sounds good. And for those listening that don't know, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta are the names of the quadrants of the Milky Way galaxy.
No. We're talking about like us different qualities of canon content.
yeah.
I've not heard it referenced that way before. Okay.
Yeah, the unique thing about Star Trek is the it's not necessarily what is canon and what isn't canon. There's different tiers
Oh,
of
we was talking
validity.
about knowledge of the Star Trek setting from different quadrants of the Milky Way.
No. It's so there's alpha canon, and that's the TV shows and the movies. And then there's beta canon, which is like video games and certain books, and then there's delta and gamma, which is lower level books, comics, stuff like that.
Yeah, gamma is typically games that have some sort of that are questionable ship class information and stuff like that. And delta canon is generally the old tabletop games from the 70s that have information that might not fit well into Star Trek canon today because it's been overwritten by stuff like Enterprise. It can get very, very messy at that point, especially with like ship information about the Romulan War in the 2150s. Considering they used to have games that took place in that time period, and those ships look ugly as sin, and they had nukes.
Yeah, they had sonic based laser weapons and threw nukes at each other, and they
What
didn't
is a
have
sonic laser? Explain that to me.
well, no, it was 60s version of what they thought technology might be in a science fiction setting. It was a basically concussion energy weapon type of thing, and they threw nukes at each other. That was basically what it was. Uh, it was glorified submarine warfare in space.
Okay. I did play a very complicated game called Starfleet Battles. I think that might be what Dog of War is referencing in chat. Starfleet Battles was a very complex tabletop game that was sort of like BattleTech, but with Star Trek ships. And you had character sheets that were very complicated, and you could target different pieces of ships to try to take out engineering or shields or weapon systems, and very complex hex map combat. And I did that for a couple years. It was a lot of fun. Have you ever done any Star Trek tabletop gaming like that?
I've never done it myself, but I'm familiar with them, and I'm familiar that many of them made severe uh, canon tweaks in order to make the balancing work, like
Oh,
making the Thorians
oh, I'm
instead of
sure
extra
that's the way games roll. I was just curious if you guys used to do any of the tabletop Star Trek stuff, because that was pretty big in the late '80s, early '90s where I was.
a little before my time.
Well, unfortunately, I had no friends who liked Star Trek.
Well, moving
So,
away from gaming, then we'll
yeah.
put the ball back in Wes's court here. So, Wes, you want to go through things chronologically, correct?
Well, so yes, but with a couple of caveats. So when it comes to, so of course, I want to do it when it comes to the series. I want to do it via production. So
Okay.
original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. Um,
And it's a
but
shame they never made any Star Trek after Enterprise.
well, you ask me, they never made any next gen movies, but that's another conversation.
Fair enough.
Uh,
Fair enough.
I,
Purple Space Bazooka.
uh, yeah. For some reason, Picard becomes an action hero midway through Generations. But,
Yeah,
I like how over on Red Letter, Plinkett calls him Larry. We'll call him Larry.
yeah.
yeah, I just liked it when he shot Neelix.
So like,
I will make them pay for what they've done.
like, we are going to have a very, very spirited conversation when we get to First Contact, because I have a lot of thoughts with that, and I have thoughts that I have yet to see anywhere. Anywhere, like I went on the forums when I was a kid. Like some of the first forums on the internet ever was devoted to Star Trek. The first online forum ever, literally, was devoted to Star Trek Generations.
Yeah,
Ever.
you're not the first person I've heard say that. I've never looked into it, but I just assume if it's not true, it's close enough to true.
Yeah, and for as long as there has been internet conversations, there has been Star Trek. So
For sure.
I think I said that the right way. You know what I mean?
I said what you heard me. I said what you heard me.
Exactly. um. And I have I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to First Contact, because everyone loves First Contact, and while I appreciate First Contact, it's got a lot of problems, and there is a way to fix almost all of it, but you're gonna have to wait a couple of years in order to hear it because we got to get there first. No, but my original my idea is to literally go through every episode, and I'm thinking about doing it. So there's two ways that we can go across, like the original series, for instance.
Yeah.
We can do it via release date, which is the date that it was aired, or production date, which is the date that the episodes were made. So, like, for instance, if we're gonna do the date that it was aired, then we would do when has gone before first,
Yeah,
and he's like, we'll probably do the I'm blanking. God damn it. Uh, what pilot the cage?
yeah.
Probably do the cage first,
Okay.
no matter
Hmm.
what, because it's an interesting thing to visit. The cage is because it is not officially canon because I mean it's not.
All right, we've been
Um,
over this. It's canon.
What tier of canon is it? 3.
It's alpha canon.
Okay.
the
It's,
cage the
it,
cage the cage is not it they use pieces of the cage
in the
in
menagerie, I
reference
know, but
to the
it's
events of the
it's
menagerie,
also
but
considered episode 0.
it's not the cage itself is not canon.
This is the sort of autism we're going to get into.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Actually, it's going to be pretty fun. Speaking of what we're going to get into on the channel, when it comes to the structuring of this lengthy series that you're going to be doing, I imagine that you're going to have eventually different playlists built for you going through different series.
Oh
And
yeah.
as we go through the dozen, well, I'll say you, it's your project. As you go through the dozens of episodes that exist, are you going to like? You'll start off, of course, with the original series, then you'll move to Next Generation. But
Yeah.
are you going to do them coterminously? Like maybe you'll do a month or two of old of the original series, then you start off with uh, doing Next Gen, and then you go back and forth every couple weeks doing episodes that way. Then maybe
So
a few months down the road, you start doing 3 different ones. Like, do you have an idea for long term tactics, or do you just want to get all the way through one before you start the next one?
it's interesting that you brought that up, because that's one of the questions that I have is what would be best. So I want to do it. I want to do the original series first. I want to go through all of the original series, um, and then start the movies. Like I kind of want to do it canonically, you know, like
Mhm.
these first, and then Trek 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then if we want to, at round that time, we can start the Next Generation because that's the time that it aired, or we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 6, and then kind of have a goofy laugh episode and do 5 because no.
Which one is 5? Is that the one with the whales?
No,
No, that's 4.
That's 4. Okay.
Star Trek
it's Spock's
5 is
brother.
with that's with going to the galactic core and
Oh
Spock's
God,
brother Cybok
Oh,
and
that one. Okay, that's the
yeah,
Cybot one. Okay, all
the
right.
brother that's never mentioned again.
the
Okay.
the reason why I personally am going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 is because Star Trek 1 through 6 is one coherent story. It starts with Admiral Kirk retaking command of the Enterprise,
With Captain Kirk.
doing the whole thing, and then and then Khan, and then Spock. What happens to Spock in 2, and then the search for Spock, and then the voyage. It is one coherent, flowing story, and then 5 happens.
Except for 5. Yeah.
Where they
5
put
just
it all in
Five
the
was like a
film.
weird existential one.
There's nothing wrong with that inherently, as long as it's coherent. It wasn't coherent, not even a
it,
little bit.
I just
yeah.
remember watching it in the 90s when I was catching up on all the Star Trek stuff, and I was like, this is weird.
Oh yeah.
It didn't really land well with me.
It's fun.
It,
And like some of the behind the scenes stuff, like have you ever heard Kirk talking about the mountain climbing that Kirk, have you ever heard Shatner talking about the
Yes.
mountain climbing that Kirk does,
Uh huh.
where he's like, Kirk is climbing the mountain, he's one with the mountain, he makes love to the mountain while he climbs it.
I love Shatner.
It's just
Shatner's a fucking character. I love
no
Shatner.
coincidence at all that he's claiming El Capitan.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the most important things that Star Trek V did was its complete and utter failure shattered Shatner's superiority complex. It made him realize that he was not perfect, and it's one of the biggest contributing factors to him patching things up with Nimoy and Kelly,
Okay.
and several others as
Well, that'll
well.
be fun. That'll be fun to explore once you get to that.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. That's one of the reasons why, like, I want to go down this. And dude, Star Trek 6 is an incredible movie. Like the
Which
Star
one's
Trek
that
2
one?
is
Which one's
the
that one?
Undiscovered Country, the last
Undiscovered Country, right? That's where the original series basically stops, and then the next one's Generations, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Which Generations I know you don't like, but personally, I enjoy all the movies. I kind of take them at face value. I know that the writing is like I know the reality of of Hollywood and the industry and how it works. So I'm gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna take it as it is. And I did enjoy that Generations gave us a lot of information about the Enterprise B, about Kirk's death. Like if you want to just ignore the rest of it, then that's great content in itself.
when I don't know how much you know about the behind the scenes of Generations and what Generations was originally going to be versus what we got because
Yeah.
of producer meddling.
We know there was going to be producer meddling. There's always producer meddling.
The level of it though with Generations, because like, man, Generations is gonna be good. Like oh god, the like oh like oh the simple fact that the producers, the money people, they were basically like, we're gonna don't make it too heavy, and oh yeah, destroy the ship because it won't look good at the movies. You gotta get a new ship.
Why? Because the model was kind of ugly at that resolution.
And I don't know. I think the Enterprise D is gorgeous.
Yeah,
Everyone thinks the Enterprise D is gorgeous. Everyone thinks that the Galaxy class ship is gorgeous. But for some reason, they wanted a new ship for the movies. And it's like, ship is 7 years old and it's the flagship of the fleet. Oh, just destroy it with an 80-year-old Klingon bird of prey. That's fine.
well,
Uh,
there's more details than that. Like how they've definitely retrofitted those old ships.
and
Well,
also
we have a lot of entropy messages piling up, so we're at the 30-minute mark. Let's go ahead and address some of those. To remind everybody that's here, I see we've got about 40 people watching. You can post your ideas, questions, and comments to the panel over on Entropy and use the left-hand side to do it. And there's also a fairly active conversation happening in the regular chat over on Entropy. And also, if you want, that's a good way to make financial donations to the channel, like we covered earlier. Over on Entropy, we're going to start with the question widget. The highest voted one over there is from Kizza GT. Hey, Kizza, how you doing today? Kizza's a regular on the show. He's one of my co-hosts. Kizza says, should... wait, let me pre-read this. He says, should all of the commies be made victims by the wrath of Khan?
oh
I'm sure Khan would look down on them and see them as pathetic.
oh yeah. Well, considering that Khan believed in the inherent superiority of the genetically modified human, and also much more important than that, the superiority of Khan Noonan Singh. I I don't think he would have wasted much time with him, with any of them.
Yeah. Next on the question widget, we have David. David from Don Pleb's chat says, not a question, but a statement. Star Trek is commie propaganda. And of course, we covered that, and I don't want to discuss it further. Sam Nope is next up, and Sam Nope says, luxury gay space communism. You can decide the context on that as you will.
Yeah.
Any comments on that one before we move on to the next one?
I remember when people used to say that ironically, kind of like healthy at any size. like that type of thing, or free
Yeah.
bleeding. Like
Yeah.
it started off as a joke, and now people are taking it seriously, just like so
Probably people like Hassan Piker.
much.
Ugh.
I think that man is genuinely just stupid, and so he
Well,
just
he
bought
is.
into the lies he was told. He just seems like a genuinely dumb person. But it sounds like the kind of thing you'd hear him say today. That's why I bring him up.
Ugh.
Next up, we have Juan Cholo. What a name. Juan Cholo says, I have always felt that the Cardassians of TNG and Deep Space Nine act like original series Klingons and vice versa. I do think that the species have similarities, uh, but that's because I think as a storyteller, you want to have different elements, and the Klingons and the Cardassians represent a mix of chaos and entropy towards a more static system that the Federation represents. So they're kind of an antagonistic force in your space narrative. What do you guys think about that?
I'll let you go first.
Well, I mean, I wish I had. I wish I had more thorough knowledge of the original series to speak on that point exactly. But I'm leaning towards no, on the basis that yes, there was a sort of shortage of honor during that time period, but I don't think they were so overtly authoritarian and just straight up handed towards each other, like say, sort of the desire to move up, like in the Terran Empire. I don't think it's that sort of overt. The Klingons sort of showed an arrogance that was like the Cardassians, but I don't think they were nearly as snide and clever and shrewd. I mean, it doesn't seem to fit for me, especially with the sort of limited writing they used for them.
I know less than you do, obviously, but I concur that the Klingons and the Cardassians are very different.
Yeah,
But from a storyteller perspective, keep in mind the people you tell a story to, 99% of them are not going to be like you and Wes. They're going to be regular TV watchers. They're going to be people that like, any kind of science fiction. They're going to be family folks that just like to watch a wholesome show together. And the Cardassians and the Klingons, narratively, serve a similar purpose from a storyteller perspective, in my opinion. They're sort of your chaotic entropic element that represents, in general, the quote unquote bad guy force that the people in the show have to work around or against.
that's true, but they did a brilliant job of sort of illustrating how sort of a Stasi-like society that the Cardassians had, where they were
Oh,
constantly
definitely, yeah. They
keeping
sort of
order.
like the, I guess, the Italian. I would more liken them to the Italians of the Axiom,
Yes, they're downright Machiavellian.
like Machiavellian fasci types,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, no, that is definitely what not Klingons,
Cardassians.
Cardassians
not
were.
the Klingons. Yeah,
Klingons
Uh,
are my people. They're like space Scotsmen. I like that.
well,
I love the Klingons.
Klingons are actually my
Klingons are good
favorite.
people. I drink moonshine with a Klingon.
Klingons are actually my favorite race. In like it, Cardassians are a very close second. I love the Cardassians and the journey that the Cardassian people take, like
Uh-huh.
from Damar to Gul Dukat to Garrick. Like some of them.
Ducat's like the best part of Deep Space
Yeah,
Nine.
Ducat
He's
is the
great.
best villain of the entire franchise,
Yeah, he's great. I love
I will
Ducat.
disagree
and he.
that for almost until he stops being Ducat, Ducat is not a villain.
Yeah, that's the thing about him, is that his motivations are so sympathetic. It's very possible you could call him a good guy. Very possible. They
We
just
will be having that conversation when we get to Deep Space Nine. Don't you worry about that, because Mark Alimo, the man who plays Gul Dukat, was so firmly convinced that Dukat was not a villain that even in the 2010s, there is footage from a convention where Ira Steven Behr, the showrunner, gets into an argument with Mark Alimo live on stage where Mark Alimo, because he's talking about how why did you write Gul Dukat positively so many times, and they're like, well, we didn't mean to at first, but Mark Alimo did such a good job with the character, and he's so charismatic, and he's obviously a villain. He's this version of Hitler, and Mark Alimo interrupts, going, "He absolutely is not. He did nothing wrong. He did his best to save the Bajoran people." And like they start getting into an argument in real time, as if 20 years hadn't passed, and they're in the writing room again, and they're talking about these characters. Deep Space Nine, everyone was so passionate about it, and I'll be getting into much more detail about that when we get
especially
there.
after like season 3, it really shows. It gets really good. Let's move on over on Entropy here. We have a donation over here. We have £5 from Sensum Communum. He says a transporter malfunction put a duplicate of this £5 note in Jeffrey's Tube 8. I managed to reverse the polarity in order to get it into Entropy for you. Live long and prosper, Yizz. Thank you very much, friend. I do appreciate the £5. I'll put them to good use.
That
Thank you,
was
friend.
that
That was a good
very,
one. That's a
very
good one.
Set up a site-to-site transport.
All right. Over back on the question widget here. Sam Nope makes another Star Trek communism thing that I'm just going to skip over. Sam also says, "Did you know memes will be memes?" Moving to David. David in with a joke. He says, "My favorite Star Trek character is Darth Vader." Goodness. We got 2 more from Sam Nope, and then we've cleared the question widget. Sam says the episode of Star Trek where they stopped the clone abuse of stormtroopers was awesome. I don't recall that one. Which one's that one? Is he referencing the clone shit in Star Wars and he's continuing with that? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sam's final comment here is also, we shouldn't just pack the question widget full of memes, or else Yizz won't be able to read relevant stuff. Thank you. All right, we've cleared Entropy now. So
one of the things I wanted to bring up real fast is the Klingons in particular. They were originally going to be Mongolians. That was the original view.
Mongolians?
Yes. Unironically, they were going to be swashbuckling Mongolians that were oriental looking and hard-faced, was the original description in their first appearance of from
That's
Errand
cool.
of Mercy.
I like
Where and of course, Errand of Mercy, which introduces my third favorite Klingon, Kor.
Oh, good old Kor. Yeah, I remember Kor.
The Dahar Master himself. He is the first named Klingon that you ever see. My boy, Kor. I love Kor. Kor is awesome. And he is amazing even in that episode back in the 1960s. Oh God, I can't wait to get to that episode. I have so much to talk about when it comes to Kor.
I'm looking forward to this series. It's going to be fun, Wes. It's going to be good times. So, speaking of good times with your new series here, are you, when it comes to the structure of delivery, are you going to do pre-recorded long-form discussions that you edit down to like 30 minutes to an hour, or are you going to do recorded commentary as you watch the show and then link it together with the show? When you present it, or are you wanting it to be a group discussion with more than just you with others? And if so, live or pre-recorded?
So here's what I'm thinking. Okay. What we do is we get together and we get together in like Cabal, right? And I definitely will not stream an episode of Star Trek because that would be against Discord's TOS.
Definitely, we don't do that.
No, but we all watch our own legal copies of Star Trek together,
or legally licensed through a streaming service.
Yes, all legally licensed through a streaming service, or our own legal Blu-ray copies or DVD copies. We all watch that at the same time together, and we take notes. Okay, and like anyone who wants to join us in Cabal can do so. Like I want people to join and say what they think afterwards. And
That's
then
cool.
what we do is the people who are going to be involved in the episode we'll get together in another location in a chat, and then we'll start talking, and like we will go down the list of notes. And what I want to do is like I'll give a brief synopsis of the episode. Like this is what I'm thinking. Okay. um, I'll have a list of the significant moments of the episode, and I'll comment on it. And also, I might have some comments on like some of the behind the scenes stuff that I know of, and like who wrote it, the music, stuff like that. And then everyone else can just talk about the things that they liked as well, or the things that they know about the episode, or what they thought about the message, or even like superficial stuff like the cheesy special effects, the bad costumes, the good costumes, the weird way people, the good way people were acting, the character dynamics, anything that they liked or they thought was fun about the episode. But
Speaking of the
don't.
interaction, I put the link to join the Cabal Discord in all the stream chats. The Cabal was started by Uzulu, but there's a lot of creators in there, and there's like 1,000 active people. It's a great place to come share ideas, share memes, get good news, and participate in real community events with people who build real community. That's one of the things that I fell in love with when I became part of the Cabal last year. Was it's a real community of adults who like doing stuff together. It's really fun. It's a good place.
And I'm very active there. I'm active almost every day in Cabal myself.
I at least stop in and say howdy every day, even if I'm busy. And there's a lot of people that are like that. It's a really good place. It's where I met Ginger Monster. It's where I met Wes.
Mhm.
I've met some really good people that you guys like that have been on my channel through the Cabal. So it might not be your cup of tea, especially if you're not used to open forum internet chat rooms and stuff, because you do get some crazies and some gross people every once in a while. But for the most part, it's good people, and it's a good place to talk to others in a civil way who have different ideas from you. It's a good place. I definitely recommend everybody trying it out.
Yeah, and I want, but the most important thing is I want a free flowing conversation when it comes to the show.
Mhm.
I don't want heavily edited structures. I'm not about that, you know. I'm not. I have this idea of something. It's called. Sorry, I turned away from the mic. Apologies.
That's okay. Welcome back.
I have this idea. It's called it's called low tech broadcasts.
Remember, a high quality microphone is like old school gaming. Facing matters.
Exactly. Yeah. I have this idea where it's the because everything these days are heavily edited with a bunch of visuals and a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I have this idea of the low tech broadcast on YouTube, where it's a guy who knows how to talk, who's passionate about something, and he's talking about it with people that he knows. And you know, the low techs, by the way, is a deep cut reference to one of my favorite movies, Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh yeah, that's a
Johnny
fun movie.
Mnemonic.
Johnny
Can't say it
Mnemonic,
right.
yeah.
Where you know the in a
Johnny
world
Pneumonia.
where yeah, especially Darwin. Where everyone where in a world where everyone is hopelessly plugged into the corporate machine, the low techs are the ones who are trying to free your brains.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of bringing
Blood-eyed
that
saviors.
mentality back. I like the idea of bringing that mentality back.
Okay.
And I think, and I like this, literally this, what we're doing here now is what I want to do with Star Trek. Like,
Sounds good.
I think that this is all that's needed.
Before I move on with that, we have Sister Carlisle with us in the chat today. Carlisle gave me an excellent collection of material about some really sinister stuff happening in California that I'm going to make my my next deep double analysis about. So since I see you here, thank you for that, Sister Carlisle. I do appreciate all your work cataloging the leftism and the anti-whiteism going on that you see in your state out there. I do appreciate that. Thank you. When it comes to the format of what you're going to do, Wes, the conversations that ensue from these community groups that you're gonna lead in the cabal here. Are you going to record all of that, like even if it's like a 3-hour convo, and then chop out the parts that are useless or not interesting, and then package that together to put on your channel?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. It's obviously going to go on the YouTube channel, obviously, but I think a light editing. It would be good to do a light editing. You know what I mean? But like not heavily by any means. And also, Lord knows I have enough storage space. I could keep the raw live streams available as well for those who want to just listen to the free flow of the conversation and talks.
I think
And
that's a
then
good idea because you could create a like, let's say the edited version goes up and becomes part of the official playlist. Then you have a raw conversation playlist that might be anywhere up to 3 or 4 hours long. But if people want to listen to the whole thing, like while they work or do whatever, that would be a good option. So it would bring in it would give the followers of the channel more options and more choice for engagement. I think that's a good idea.
exactly. And I know I personally am always curious about, how do these very nicely made edited videos, how do they start, that type of thing. And Lord knows I don't have a lot of experience when it comes to video editing, so
I can teach you simple video editing in a day. It's not that hard to pick up and do. It just takes
Yeah.
time, and you just have to learn it like learning any new interface. And it's actually not that hard. It was pretty easy to pick up once I got into it.
Another thing is uh, I'm very meticulous when it comes to playlists. For anyone who's visited my Mystery Science Theater 3000 channel, I have every episode divided by season and what channel it came out on. And I will be very meticulous when it comes to playlists on my channel as well. So like it'll be the original series season 1, the original series season 2, season 3, the original series movies playlist, next gen playlist, stuff like that. Oh, that's another thing that I just reminded me of. One of the things that I had a really cool idea of is after we finish a season, we do a burning of the sacred cow. Do
Okay.
y'all know what I mean by that?
No.
So it's a thing. It was a thing that a very niche group of people on the internet would do. Is they would ruthlessly mock the thing that they loved.
Oh, okay. I see. That'll be fun. Sort of like a mix of Red Letter Media and MST3K.
So no, kind of, but what I want to do is I want to go like someone will start reading off the episodes, and I will just start ruthlessly insulting each one of the episodes. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
sounds fun. Sounds fun. That's a good
You know,
idea.
and like other people can do it too, and like just we just to make sure everyone knows that we do not take this too seriously, that we can't laugh at ourselves. That
We'll come
while
up with a fun name for that segment, like "Burning of the Space Cow" or something like that.
exactly, like that's the thing is I really like that idea, and I
Me
think the
too.
concept of burning of the sacred cow should come back.
That's fun. I like that. That's a good idea. So
Oh,
three. You've been quiet for a bit. Is there anything you want to put in on this, or any structural ideas you have?
Well, I suppose that while we talk about, I mean, if we just talk about the episodes, I worry that you were going to tread on familiar ground quite a bit, but I think we can fill in those gaps by mentioning related content that I picked up. Adding
Well,
details here and there.
treading
Uh,
on similar ground isn't bad, especially when you're doing like an informative educational series. So I think that even though there are a lot of similar episodes when it comes to storytelling, rehashing stuff as it happens, I think will be good. I think it'll be fine.
oh yeah, and also like there are obviously we're gonna have some episodes, especially in the original series, where it I mean, even the unedited conversation will only be like 20 minutes. You know, that's the thing is sometimes there's just not a lot to talk about when it comes to an episode of Star Trek. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but then there are
You think
some.
so now? Well, you think so now? We're gonna get into it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. But like there's not a lot to talk about when it comes to Charlie X. You know, like we talk about talk about the lack of the repeated mention of the lack of emotions. Talk about the contacts and how they were blind. Talk about the James R. Kirk, and that's kind of it when it comes to Charlie X. You know, but let this be your last battlefield. The Gorn fight, Spectre of the Gun,
Yeah,
Trouble
those.
with Tribbles,
Yeah, that's gonna be
any
fun.
any Klingon episode, there's going to be some talking going on with those. But like the space hippie episode, no.
When it
Space
comes
seed,
when it comes
absolutely.
to making these, when we have the conversations, what do you envision? Do you see everybody being quiet and taking the 40 minutes or whatever to watch the whole show, and then we have commentary about it, or do you want to pause at intervals while we watch to discuss things? Because I
I
can see
think
value to both and cons to both.
I think pausing and talking about it occasionally wouldn't be a bad idea. But for the most part, yeah, we just watch and we take notes. But like
Okay.
pausing it and like bringing things up, talking about it like quickly. But we're obviously not going to be recording that part. That'll be the meat and potatoes of it,
Yeah.
of getting our information together, type of thing.
Oh, I assumed that the entire episode wouldn't. I mean, would be viewed not on the channel because, of course, that's got copy claim problems already. But that would also sort of be boring if you have to watch the whole episode before getting to what the channel's about. So I
Yeah.
knew that we wouldn't do that for the channel. But when it comes to how, and I said we here because it's a group thing that you want people's input on. When we watch together, then you said take notes. So mostly it's going to be you get together with people that want to join and listen and learn and contribute. And then after an episode's over, we'll have probably a couple hour discussion about what the things were in accordance to the people like you and three that know a whole lot about Star Trek. And then it'll be people that don't know as much, like myself, who love Star Trek, putting in their 2 cents in sort of a constructive educational type talk. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, well, I want a variety of opinions. I definitely want someone who has never seen Star Trek before.
Cool.
I want someone who has a tertiary knowledge of it, like a casual knowledge of Star Trek, and I want someone who's knowledgeable in it. And I think like having a panel of like 4 or 5 people, I think would be best. Like anywhere between 3 to 5 people. I really don't think more than five. I think five would be too, like more than five would be too much. But I think 3 to 5 people per episode. Like if it's a slow, easy episode, maybe keep it small. But like you know, for the larger one, like have a larger panel, more opinions, stuff like that.
Sounds good.
I realize that if we're going to keep these times reasonable, we have to talk about it. We're probably going to have to keep this conversation between the panel itself and not constantly like explain things for the audience, because if we're going to get through this stuff, we can't explain every little thing.
Oh no! Of course, no. That's
That actually brings me to my next main topic that I had lined up for the stream today. Let's go ahead and segue into that because the tech side of things, how the society works, why the tech is what it is, and why things like transporters and matter replicators and deep space communications can function is a core building block of the show. So, my question was, did you want to also have a tech series where people like 3 of 12 and other Star Trek autists could explain the what of the setting? Like, for example, a lot of people don't even know the basics of faster than light travel, how that affects things. The distance of things matters in space because of how long it takes to get places, that kind of thing. So I thought maybe there could be a building blocks series where instead of watching an episode, you'll open up Memory Alpha or look at some of the old tech manuals that came out in the 80s and 90s, just to have a series of explanations where we can have fun autistically discussing the technology of the setting and how that and why that matters.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually
Yeah.
a really good idea. What I was planning on doing was having an intro, so an an intro to each series. So we do a video introducing the original series, where we talk about some of the stuff behind the scenes, some of the things that were leading up to it, and of course that would also be the intro to season one, obviously. And then when that season's over, we have an introduction to season two, and then we do an intro to season three, and then we do an intro to the movies, where we talk about like the what led up to the first movie, the concept of fan conventions, and how that eventually led to the creation of Star Trek Phase 2, which eventually led to Star Trek the motion picture. um like stuff like that. I always thought that I always figured I wanted to do something like that. But no, that's a good idea. Kind of keeping those conversations organized, so like we can go, this is the first use of the replicator, this is the first use of the holodeck, this is the first use of this and that and the other
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Yeah,
and then we can go.
I thought that would be a good series because we have a lot of people that really love the tech and the inspiration of that came from looking forward to what kind of technologies we could have that have inspired a lot of people in the last 40 years.
Oh
So
yeah.
I thought that would be a really fun thing to do, especially for somebody like 3 of 12 who really loves all that stuff.
Oh, I love it too. I actually went into the Alcubierre drive in on Don's stream, which, for those of you who don't know, that is the real world theory of warp of faster than light travel, which is heavily just like so many other things in our real world, is heavily inspired by Star Trek.
Yes, there are a few others that I can go over as well. I remember when I was in ROTC and I read a textbook about space travel, and they had mentioned that the Air Force was working on the concept of a light drive that wasn't meant to go faster than light, but approximately 0.53 speed of light, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It was completely theoretical. The idea is that it had like that the ship was going to have next to no mass, and that they were going to use a yet completely unknown means of moving it forwards. And they said that they had the physics down, but none of the engineering.
Oh yeah. It's like fusion. It's like fusion energy. We
Yeah,
know that it's possible. We just haven't figured out how to do it yet. Uh,
get into that
and
too, because there's been some major strides made in the last year in as far as fusion power.
Oh, one thing, because I like that idea, Yiz, and I definitely want to do something like that.
Okay,
But
sounds good. I was hoping that you'd be into that because that sounds
I
interesting to me.
I also want to do an episode of that on the concept of scientific explanation versus technobabble, because
Yes.
a pet peeve of mine is people going, "Oh, Star Trek just solves all their problems with technobabble." Like, no, they use scientific explanations.
Yeah.
That they use the technology that they have at their disposal to solve the problems, as opposed to blowing things up or shooting things or ramming things or violence. Like, just the other day, I definitely did not stream Measure of a Man to Cabal because I really wanted to watch that episode, and there's no action in that episode. There's no violence in that episode. It's it's talking. It's debate. It's it is these people in the far future having a conversation that we are going to have one day. And that to me is one of the things that makes Star Trek so good. Is you can have entire episodes that are just devoted to talking and no violence. Like, The first movie, Star Trek: The Original Series, they fire their weapons once, and it's at a meteor. There's no violence. That entire series, that entire movie.
Yeah.
There's no big ship gun battles. There's nothing crazy over the top. It's people trying to solve a very, very serious problem with their minds and not their brawn.
Yeah,
And that is definitively Star Trek.
yeah, but particularly using tools that not everyone would immediately consider, like psychological ones.
Oh yeah. Oh, Kirk calling V'ger's bluff. Like stuff like that.
Mhm.
Just the brass balls on that man. But that's one of the things that I want to do. One of the reasons why I want to do this is to dispel the myth that Kirk is a very shoot from the hip guy who doesn't think ahead and just improvises everything that he does and has sex with every woman that he sees. No, he's actually very, very meticulous, and he thinks ahead quite a bit.
Well, I think that we should check over on Entropy and see if there's anything new, as well as we're getting to that. Just hit the hour mark, so I'm going to do my PayPal and Cash App refresh and see if we've got any paid chats on either of those two. Speaking of, if you do want to get in your paid chat donations to be read on stream, do that in the next 20 minutes or so, because we'll be getting out of here in about half an hour. And still nothing over on Cash App and PayPal. Over on Trovo and DLive, I see the few of you over there. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for the lemons, like always. Now, back to Entropy. We have two things, one from David, one from Juan again. David says, is there any way to get Trek back on track in 2021? I'm going to answer that before the two of you do. I don't think that there is any hope of a large corporate media-owned franchise or IP being good in the climate that we're in based upon what we've seen. So the two of you discuss.
I'd say keep going with the fan-made content. Some of that stuff is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So David and anyone else who's interested, look up on YouTube Prelude to Axanar.
Oh, yes. Prelude to Axanar is amazing.
Yeah. Prelude to Axanar came out 7 years ago now.
Oh.
And it is my answer to everyone who says who claims because one of the most common things when you say Discovery is so unrealistic, it looks nothing like the original series, the immediate response is, "What, do you expect everything to look like a set from a 1960s TV show? That's no way we could get that to look good." Prelude to Axanar.
Yeah, Prelude
Cool.
to Axanar.
I might look into that, or we might watch it together.
Prelude to Axanar is the perfect example of making that 60s aesthetic look sleek, sexy, and modern. The uniforms, the sets, the and the special effects, that is an independent work, and it looks so good. And for those of you who are wondering, I know a lot about Star Trek, but I also know a lot about Star Wars. I know a lot about Babylon. I love Babylon 5. I love Star Wars. I love Stargate.
Babylon 5 and Stargate are my favorites, with Farscape being a very close second.
Farscape, absolutely. So if y'all like this, maybe in the future we'll take a break from Star Trek and we'll do something else. We'll do a little bit of maybe before. Oh, hey, here's an idea. Before we start Deep Space Nine, we do some Babylon 5.
We make good context. I've actually never watched Babylon 5, so I'd love to do that.
Babylon 5 is my favorite. There are 5 or 6 movies that go along with it. I have the Mega Torrent that has everything somewhere on an external hard drive, but it's been like 8 years since I've watched it all. I watched some of it on a stream with somebody, not like a live stream, but from a streaming service with someone a few years ago. But I haven't sat down and gone through all of it in about a decade now. I'd like to do that again. So maybe we could do that together at some point. That'd be fun. So we'll move on with the other entropy things over here. David says, "Is it about 21 minutes?" I don't know what you're referencing. You have to put something else in there. Juan Cholo says, "Are you going to review the Star Trek animated series from the 70s? Many of the same writers from the original series, including DC Fontana, worked on it along with actors. Are you going to do that too?" He's curious about.
I really want to. We will, absolutely. But because it's not canon, I'm thinking about like maybe doing an episode every once in a while. Because
There's not many episodes of it.
I don't know about you guys, but I really want to get to the next generation. I want to, like, I like the original series, but there's only 3 seasons, and we can tear through it pretty fast.
We'll at least do one episode of the animated series, because there's some specific alien races that are really, really nice to get into. Some specific plots that they did in there they could have never managed to make work in the original series because, again, the cheap sets that they would draw things that they couldn't do in there. Some of the characters are worth getting into too, especially the Cation.
I think I think maybe doing it parallel to the next generation wouldn't be a bad idea. But also that's another thing. What I'm thinking about doing is when it comes to like the fact that Deep Space Nine was airing at the same time that the last season of the Next Generation was airing.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing an episode of Deep Space Nine and then doing an episode of the Next Generation until season 7 is done, and then just doing nothing but Deep Space Nine.
Oh, I know. We should do it when they do the crossover episode.
Well, yes, but I was actually thinking about starting Deep Space Nine after the Chain of Command, because canonically the events of Chain of Command caused Deep Space Nine to start.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, the just things that I've been working on in my head, type of thing.
He said he was talking about Prelude to Axanar being about 21 minutes.
Yes, it is. It's around 20-25 minutes, and it is some of the best Star Trek that you will ever see. It is amazingly good.
Yeah.
And guess what happened? CBS shit down in order to make room for Discovery.
You know what? I'm starting to that I should handle all the non-alpha canon stuff, because I've got so much to share here, and I didn't mean to cut you off at all. I didn't know that you were saying another thing. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say, but yeah, no. When it comes to the animated series, absolutely, we'll go through it. I think. But because it is non-canon, we'll do it like in bursts, like when we take a break from the when we do taking a break from the movies and taking a break from the Next Generation. I think doing a few episodes of the animated series would be fun.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We have come to the end of the entropy question widget. So, since we are in the home stretch now, the last thing I had on the docket to talk to the two of you about today was time. What time of the week or the month or the day do you see doing these conversations? And by what schedule do you see releasing the product onto your channel happening?
Oh, see, that's a question.
Well, if you don't have a lot to say about it, I do, because I've been a content creator for a while and did organizational stuff before I was a content creator. When it comes to this kind of thing, you have to gauge how much investment of your time you want to put into it, so to sort of gauge what the output will be. For example, I have about 30 hours a week of truly free time. And I devote as close to 100% of that as I can to making content. Outside of that, I have to work, I have to make money, I have to do A, B, C, D, and E, spend time with family, etc. And I want to make sure that I don't get burnt out with doing my content production, so I don't just stop. So that's sort of where you have to gauge how much you want to put into this versus how much time it's going to take. So I thought maybe at first you would say you're going to put out no more than one quote unquote episode of work per week, or maybe just start the first one and see how much work it is to get a finished product to know how fast you can get those out the door and onto the channel.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I was thinking about maybe a schedule of uh like two Star Trek videos a week.
I think that's a good goal once you get into the flow of things and know how
Yeah.
much work it's going to take and what it takes to get to the output of the thing. And then on off days you can release the raw stream, since those take longer to upload and everything, but are almost no work as a content creator if you're just posting the raw.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that way, 4 uploads a week on a channel, that's pretty good content. And then if you want to have bonus stuff, you can throw in little bonus stuff too on your off days.
Yeah. And when as we progress through this, I might make non-Star Trek related videos every once in a while, that type of thing as well. But yeah, no, I think I figured two edited videos a week would probably work well with my schedule personally. But of course, like we can watch more than that. We can actually record more, but release 2 a week and maybe get a backlog going, that type of thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Then the 3, unless you have anything to say, I'd like to move to my final point here.
I have lots to say, but
No, I mean specifically about the content schedule.
Not particular. I mean, I'll leave Wes in control of that. I'll get the content together.
Then, one thing that I did want to talk about was the first thing that came up about Star Trek, communism, etc., etc. Somebody in the chat named Mark with an I before the A, I don't know how to pronounce that, Miarki, I guess, has been talking to others in chat about socialism and structures and post-scarcity and all this stuff. The reason why I say that it is not what people mean when they say communism is because the concepts in Star Trek as presented by Gene Roddenberry, no matter what you ascribe to it when you see it, it's idealized humanity cooperating. Now, you can call that socialism, you can call it communism, you can call it liberalism, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but the concepts from the original show all the way to when I stopped caring about it after Enterprise, the concept is humanity came to a series of very difficult wars and conflicts on Earth until technology arose to the point to where people didn't have to fight and kill each other over territory and resources anymore. And that completely changes everything. Because no matter what you believe, whether you're religious or not, no matter whether you care about race or not, whether you care about political patriotism or national patriotism or not, whenever the vast majority of people on planet Earth, they wake up every day knowing that they're going to have all the food they need and all the energy they need to pursue safety, love, liberty, and happiness, it changes the dynamic of everything that you know about to the point to where you don't recognize it anymore. Star Trek is like the ideal end game for what most Anglosphere people view as the good ending for humanity's struggles. So if you're trying to say what it is in the setting is socialism or communism or whatever, then you're just not getting it, and I'm sorry. Now, if you want to say that the show has been used for propaganda purposes, well, sure, everything under the sun has been, and I don't want to argue that. You can say, oh, well, this writer did this, or these creators put in these ideas for feminism or whatever. I'm not going to argue that because that's an endless argument, and of course, you're going to be right sometimes and all that. And everything has been used under the sun in the real world for leftist whatever purposes for manipulation. I get that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to talking about the show and the setting, it's not any kind of ism that exists in reality because it's idealized fiction. So that's what I wanted to say about that at the end, just to let everybody know where I stand on that. Especially because I made a video on it called ethnocentrism in Star Trek, because I wanted to use Star Trek as a model to show why caring about your language, your race, your people, your country, your language even, is not an evil thing like we are told it is by many avenues of leftism here in the anti-white hell that we've stumbled into. In Star Trek, they view every race and expression of humanity as far as language and religion as something interesting and valuable, as a necessary part of what made us a very dynamic, interesting, brilliant, and troubled species on planet Earth. So, let me wrap up real fast.
Yeah.
So they viewed things through an ethnocentric lens. And again, ethnicity I've covered on my channel. And ethnicity is when a particular people, meaning a race or subrace, in an area, which is land or a country, over time develop language, religion, customs, traditions, etc., that set them apart noticeably from clusters around them. That's an ethnicity. And Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, the writer, thought that was a beautiful thing and didn't want any of those to be destroyed or subsumed. And as such, the idealized version of the end game of planet Earth in the setting was we started valuing that and not killing each other or trying to eradicate each other. And that's why I say it's a very idealized version of healthy, functional ethnocentrism in a post-scarcity society. And I use Star Trek as a lens to talk about why ethnocentrism can, and in my opinion, is a good thing, as long as you don't do the whole crazy ethnic cleansing death camp shit. So that's what I wanted to end it with today, before we talk to Wes on the way out and do the shilling and stuff. So now we've come to the end of what I had planned for today.
Just to add something to what you said, one of my favorite scenes in all of Star Trek is when Abraham Lincoln is on the bridge, and it's actually the real Abraham Lincoln as created by a godlike being. Complicated. Watch the show to get where Abraham Lincoln came from, but nonetheless, Abraham Lincoln on the bridge of the Enterprise. And he walks up to Uhura, and he kisses her hand, and he goes, "What a charming negress!" And
what an elegant negress!
And he immediately stops himself and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. What was considered passive in my time may be considered a slight in today." And Uhura has no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's beautiful, idealized. That's nice. Yeah.
And Kirk says something very elegant, which is in today's world, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but in today's world, we have learned to love ourselves and our differences and embrace them for what they are.
Yeah, and so that exact sentiment is why I used Star Trek as an example of why ethnocentrism and observing differences between people doesn't mean we have to not get along and hate each other. Like, if I have a friend who's black or Arabic or Jewish or whatever, we can observe each other's differences as long as each group is not trying to exterminate the other. Like, it's okay to be genetically or religiously different as long as you can find some way to exist together. And I think that's a beautiful concept that is worth keeping in mind. Now, where the rubber meets the road in reality, we ain't seeing a lot of that lately. But it's still a good thing to strive for, in my opinion.
It's perfectly okay that Chekhov thinks that everything's Russian.
Yeah, good old Chekhov.
Yes, the classic Russian fairy tale, Cinderella.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. It's gonna be a good time.
Of course.
What I want to do now, we've come to the end of the show. We're going to put Wes's links are in the description of the video, but for ease of the viewer, I'm going to put them in the various chat channels so you guys can just click on them there. Definitely go and follow. He has an MST3K channel called Zap Rousdower, and Yeah, and that is just for Mystery Science Theater uploads. Now, the Star
Yeah.
Trek is going to be on Wes's actual channel. Now, that's what I'm putting in the chat right now. So that's where everything we've discussed is going to be put. When the finished product, the output's going to be put there. Excuse me. And as far as where we're going to be doing all of this, it's going to be in the Cabal Discord, which is the third link that I'm putting in the chats. So these are the things that you can follow. The second two are the links involved with what we discussed today. And the first one is just Wes's Mystery Science appreciation channel, where you can find clips and full episodes of Mystery Science Theater. So, with that being said, now that we're at the end, 3 of 12. Wes, is there anything you guys want to discuss or talk about or promote before we get out of here today?
Yeah, I got something. I was actually watching Get Him to the Greek, the movie from 2010 with Russell Brand. There's this really interesting scene because Cole Meanley plays
Yep.
the father of Russell Brand's character, and it's just absolute gold. Absolute gold.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. What I mean, I know the Russell Brand person, but like, what is this you're talking about?
The movie itself ain't that great, but Cole Meany's in it, and that in and of itself is good.
Yeah, Cole Meanley, for people who aren't familiar, he played the transporter chief O'Brien, who is also head of ops in Deep Space Nine,
He is the hardest working man in Starfleet.
and the most tormented.
Yeah. Oh man, I will say one thing. The only positive thing that I will say about New Trek, NU Trek, the bullshit that's coming out right now, is Lower Decks took a moment to acknowledge the fact that Chief O'Brien is the pinnacle of Starfleet ideology and the best of that Starfleet ever has ever and will ever have to offer.
Good old O'Brien, salt of the earth, good lad.
He just wants to eat oxtail soup with his Japanese wife. Like
Yeah.
he just wants to go home, and they keep torturing the man.
He wants to play holodeck games with his
He
best
just
buddy.
wants to go kayaking. That's all he wants.
with his superhuman augment best friend.
Oh. Oh man, no! It just
Well, this is definitely going to be a lot of fun. I'm glad that you want to embark on this, and I look forward to participating when I can. I definitely look forward to, hopefully, you getting to have a wonderful, long-lasting series of being able to do this for years to come. It sounds like a great time that I can enjoy being a part of, and hopefully dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of others will also participate in and learn from. So with that being said, thank you for being here today, Wes. I always appreciate your presence on my channel. I like your voice. You're fun to have around. 3 of 12, thank you for being here as always. And as a reminder, 3 of 12 and I will be hosting and co-hosting Dragons of Discord, Discord Dragons, Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. There are no big ticket names this Monday that I could get, so it's just going to be the usual bullpen of people, plus maybe a couple of other small creators if I can hear back from them in time. But as it stands right now, we just have the usual bullpen of people, but Dragons of Discord will happen every Monday until I just can't do it. So tune in Monday night for that at 6 p.m. I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend. And for those of you in the White Wellbeing community, I will see you Sunday for the Going Free stream. And Wes, 3 of 12, I will talk to you guys on Cabal here shortly. So with that being said, thank you, everyone, and we will see you